It was a cold, rainy Tuesday morning in Portland, Oregon. The kind of morning where the sky felt heavy enough to touch, and the streets shimmered beneath a sheet of water as if the whole city were breathing slowly. At Station 17, paramedics were already on high alert when a call came in. An elderly man collapsed somewhere near the forest edge outside the city. The ambulance roared onto the slick highway, siren echoing off wet pavement, tires slicing through puddles, until suddenly the driver slammed the brakes so hard that everything in the back shifted forward. Standing in the middle of the road was a white dog, drenched to the bone, shivering violently. Its fur clung thin to its body, and its eyes, dark, wide, unblinking, locked onto the ambulance like it had been waiting specifically for them. The driver honked once, twice, but the dog didn't budge. It didn't bark, didn't growl, didn't even flinch. It simply stood there, trembling but determined. Lisa, one of the EMTs, stepped out, frustrated but cautious. When she approached the dog, it backed away a few steps, sat down, and stared deep into her eyes as if trying to communicate something urgent. She managed to guide it off the road, but the moment she returned to the ambulance, the dog trotted straight back into the exact same spot and stared again, insistent, unyielding. Something clicked inside her. This wasn't a lost animal. This dog was trying to lead them somewhere. Rain poured harder, soaking her hair and uniform as she crouched down slowly, speaking softly. The dog turned, looked at her once, then began trotting toward the forest, stopping every few seconds to make sure she was following. Lisa called her partner, and together they followed the white dog down a muddy slope, pushing through soaked bushes and dripping pine branches. And there, under a cluster of evergreen trees, they found him. A man in his 70s, lying unconscious on the damp earth, face pale, lips purple, breaths shallow and fading. His body was cold, his clothes wet, his heartbeat weak. The dog circled him anxiously, whining, nudging his shoulder with desperate urgency. Lisa dropped to her knees, checked his pulse, and shouted for her partner to radio it in. They lifted the man onto a stretcher, the dog pacing in frantic circles until they opened the ambulance doors. It tried to jump in, and for a moment Lisa hesitated, but the look in its eyes made the choice for her. She stepped aside, letting the drenched animal curl up at the man's feet. Sirens wailed again as they raced to the hospital. Doctors later confirmed the truth. The man, identified as George Miller, had suffered a major stroke, and if he had been found even 20 minutes later, he wouldn't have survived. For the next 3 days, the white dog waited outside the hospital entrance. Rain washed over its thin body, wind whipped through its soaked fur, but it did not move from the doorway. It refused food unless Lisa herself brought it, and at night it curled against the cold wall, eyes fixed on the sliding doors as if guarding its owner's life with sheer will. When George was finally stable enough to be moved out of intensive care, Lisa and several nurses pleaded with hospital management to let the dog inside. Just once. The administrators reluctantly agreed. The dog limped into the room slowly, tail low, ears flattened. George lay motionless in bed, his face tired, eyes dull. The dog let out a soft whimper. Something shifted instantly. A tear slipped from the corner of George's eye. His lips trembled. Then, in a faint, cracked whisper, came a single word. "Bailey." The dog pressed its head against George's side and let out a sound that was half a cry, half relief. Nurses wiped tears discreetly. Lisa turned away, swallowing the lump in her throat. Something in George awakened after that moment. His recovery accelerated in a way that baffled the staff. He started speaking more, moving more, eating more, his spirit reigniting each time Bailey entered the room. Soon, George's wife arrived, distraught, explaining that he had taken Bailey for their usual morning walk when he must have collapsed. Bailey had refused to leave him, even in the storm. Days later, when George was discharged, his wife took Bailey home, thinking the loyal dog would rest. But the next morning, when hospital staff arrived for their shift, the white dog was curled up at the entrance again, waiting. Only when George himself walked out of the hospital doors did Bailey finally rise, tail wagging weakly, and walk away by his side. Some stories don't need dramatic music or special effects to be unforgettable. Some stories remind us that loyalty does not require language and love does not care about species. And sometimes, on a stormy road where an ambulance rushes toward saving a stranger's life, it is a loyal heart wrapped in wet fur that stops traffic and saves a life the world would have lost.